Hello, welcome to my video. This is going to be my CM8 guide on the Sagittarius Cup that's going to be coming up here. I'm going to be splitting this up into two parts actually. Part 1 is going to go over the general recommendations, stat recommendations, deck recommendations, and then the comp that I recommend for the easiest results. So this is just going to be the general guide for everybody who wants to get out the basic information first. And then in part 2, I'm going to look into the other strats you can employ and go into the specifics of that. Now, this CM is actually going to have a lot more possibilities of other strategies coming into play, which I really look forward to. It'll have more spots for people to succeed with their Oshis, and it's for good reason. All right, so CM8 is actually going to be the arima kinen. So the arima kinen is known IRL for being a voted for race, which means that everybody in Japan is voting for who they want to be in the arima kinen. So it turns into a popularity show. So in a way, it's actually the IRL Oshi series. You're going to be seeing the horses that you like up against other horses that other people like. And so what better race to run Oshis in than this race? But anyway, so it's going to be Winter Runner, right-handed. So this is going to be our first winter, and it's going to be right-handed again. So remember, Machikane Fukukitaru, we're going to have Fine Motion, which will be good right-handed. Nakayama Racecourse and non-standard distance, because it's 2,500 meters. Sunny days, and firm conditions. So the first thing I want to point out here is this giant hill right in the middle. And then the downhill. So this is going to mean that in this race, power and wit are going to be very important. Pretty much equally important, I'd say, for most comps. You're going to need the power to get up, and the wit will give you more speed going down into the last spurt. So the last spurt on this track is both a straight and a corner. So in previous long tracks, it's been mostly straightaway spurt. That's going to be our main excel in the last few long CMs. But in this CM, we actually see a little bit more variety, with angling and scheming only being 33 meters late. And then we also have Let's Pump Some Iron and then Mejiro Dober's new unique. So we see here that there's going to be 3 main ults for end closers, and then angling and scheming for fronts. So when we look at this, we can say, oh, so lates also have some excels, right? Not really, because those excels require 5th and 6th place. So 5th and 6th for Mejiro Dober, 6th for Pump Some Iron. And having straightaway spurt being good means that most players are going to be drifting mostly towards end closers. Remember your gold ships, your Taishins, and then soon Tamamo Cross is also going to have straightaway spurt by default. So most people are going to drift towards end closers, which means that the meta will push lates up to be further up and out of these zones. So it'll be somewhat gambly to run lates, even if you don't build them to be gambly. All right. But let's look into the stats. So recommended stats. 1200 speed as normal. I have minimum and recommended. So for the stamina, I put 1 gold. If you can get enough stamina to not require the gold, that is very, very nice. But most of the time you're going to need at least 1 gold, which isn't too gambly, especially since we're going to be wanting higher wit. Front 850, pace 800, late 750, end 775. This is the minimum I recommend. 600 power, 600 wit, 400 guts. These should be pretty easy to get with Rico, your stamina and guts, and then power and wit, I recommend to be 600. Remember, they should be somewhat equally important because of the hill. Now for the stats I recommend is basically just add 50 to everything here. That's a pretty good rule of thumb. Add 50 to cover your rushed, to cover your dueling, things like that. More is still nice, of course, in edge cases, but don't go out of your way too much for too much more. Like, don't go 2 golds plus an 8 recovery. You don't need that. It's way too overkill. CM7 was wet conditions on a 500 meter shorter course, and it was similar stam requirements to this one, which is kind of funny. All right, I recommend 800 power and 800 wit for this, and that seems like a good stat to stick at. If you get to these stats, you have a very good ace on your hands as far as the stats go. I don't know about your skills, I don't know about your aptitudes, but you have a very good ace if you get to 800s. Any more is luxury. And then 500 guts, it's not too hard to get 500 guts in my opinion. More is always better. Oh, another thing that is important. This track actually has the hidden thresholds for speed on stamina and guts. So that means that getting to 901, stamina gives you more speed. That means that getting to 301 guts gets you more speed. It's really hard to get to 601 guts though, and I don't think it's worth it to run like a Haru Urara for guts. It makes the runs too inconsistent. So yeah, don't forget about the stat threshold into the recommended. So for the deck recommendations, I recommend for speed bonus Umas, 2 speed, 2 wit, your Rico, and then whatever you're getting your gold from, if you need it, of course. And then for no speed, 3 speed, 1 wit, POW card Rico, power, and then whatever you're getting your gold from. Now you can get away with 2 speed, 2 wit on no speed bonus as well, but normally that's going to require a Biko for your second speed card. So 3 speed is what I'm going to recommend for most players. If you know you can get to 1200 speed with 2 speed cards because you have your accounts in that state, go ahead and do that. For the speed SRs, I recommend Sweep Tosho, Lone Wolf. Don't forget about Lone Wolf. Don't forget. Don't forget. You might be running Taishin, you might have it there, but don't forget it. You don't want to give your opponents free 40 speed. Shinko Windy, very good. 10 race bonus. Speed bonus helps a lot when you're wit maxing because then you'll get more speed when you're pressing wit when she's there. King Halo from conditions, power bonus helps you get up that power. Rico, it's Rico. Super Creek, I recommend Super Creek over Rice Shower power, and I have Rice Shower MLB, but Super Creek non-existent on my account. So I'm saying that from a position where I want to say Rice Shower is very good, but she's just not as good as Super Creek, unfortunately, even though she's scenario linked. Power cards are not amazing, but if it's your only choice, there you go. It's my only choice, unless I want to borrow Super Creek. And then for the wit cards, of course, Fine Motion, the best wit card in the game. Right-handed. And then we have Nice Nature, very, very high race bonus. She's good for late surgers. I don't recommend buying on your left unless you're doing a pure gamble build, but those aren't as good anymore. I'll talk about that later. And then taking the lead for the front runners with Mihono Bourbon, speed bonus as well. Machikane Fukakitaru will give you that right-handed, and then is also scenario linked, very good card. Marvelous Sunday, good race bonus. Daiwa Scarlet, very high specialty priority, gets you get your wit up faster. Agnes Tachyon, race bonus, SP bonus, very strong SP card. All right, now going into what I recommend for your easiest results. This is the lowest effort comp. If you just want to throw something in because it's a long, you can run this comp. You just slap every gamble on an end, plus spurt, plus NSM. Pretty self-explanatory. You get long S, you get enough stamina, there you go. You can throw it in. Gold Ship, Taishin, Tamamo Cross, Mayano Top Gun, all very, very good options for running for this comp. It's a very easy equation. You just throw Mejiro Ryan, Mejiro Dober, straightaway spurt, no stopping me, Gamba, you can win. It's not very consistent anymore, but it can work. Okay, so now going into part 2. These are going to be going over the other strats you can employ, going over front running strategies, not gambling with your ends. So in contrast to this, 888, and then a comp that needs testing. I'm looking forward to Tamamo coming out because I think she might have some options as pace, but I still think she'll be stronger as end, of course. But hey, if you want to run pace, there is some possibility there. We'll see as time goes on. All right, so going into the front comps. Fronts are going to be very strong if you can build them yourselves. I don't think you'll be running into many strong fronts in the wild in CM, of course, because this is global. Players aren't making very strong fronts. So, I mean, as far as seeing fronts in the wild that are strong go, I don't expect that to be the case. But if you can build strong fronts yourself, or if you're running against other strong players, I think fronts will be very, very strong. The general comp seems to be shaking out to be 2 front plus 1 other. This is like a backup. The 1 other is a backup in case the front that you're running dies out of stamina, whatever it is. So for the backup, you can run really whatever you want. Like literally anything you can. I'm considering Tamamo pace just because I want to run something different. But You can run late, you can run end, you can run whatever you want. If built well, it is incredibly strong, but it requires immense investment. And this is because your deck needs to be good, your inherits need to be good, your aptitudes need to be good, your stats need to be good, everything needs to be good. So it'll take a lot to get these aces good, but if you do, bam, there you go. Triple front comp. So for the triple front comp, I expect it to be 2 front plus 1 Suzuka or 3 regular fronts. The runaway strategy is a little bit more risky because you have to count on your team catching up to the Suzuka and the Suzuka not denying your other fronts. You can run Suzuka as an ace, but I haven't seen her really succeed at all. It's going to be extremely hard to build a Suzuka that can win just because her end speed is so much lower than the ends, and the ends have a much easier time just catching up. So you're mostly just going to be running Suzuka to either pace up the lobby or deny fronts. Your fronts can catch up to Suzuka quite easily if you build enough wit. This is because your other fronts will overtake with each other, trying to overtake the Suzuka. They'll catch up eventually, especially on that downhill if you have enough wit. So you can run Suzuka, but it's risky. You're risking it. If your count is lacking some strength, but you still want to run front, like if you don't want to run end and you still want to run front, and you don't think, like, I don't know, if you don't think you can get groundwork on all your aces, if you don't think you can get something on all your aces, you can use 3 fronts to make up somewhat for lack of wit or lack of skills. The 3 fronts will try and overtake with each other, and having more fronts trying to overtake with each other will pace up the other fronts harder. You'll have a higher chance of your fronts trying to overtake with each other and having one front overtake so hard that it makes up for the lack of wit, lack of skills, whatever it may be. I still recommend, however, at least 600 wit. Alright, so now going into non-gamble ends. I'm going to be spending quite a while working on these next few slides because I feel like it's important to talk about how you can run ends and lates in a different way. So you can apply the same tactics I'm about to talk about to your lates. Now it's not going to be as strong in the CM to run lates, of course, but on the 2 front 1 late comp, I think that this strategy will be very strong. So instead of relying on only accels, you're going to be using a runaway to decrease the chance of pace down on your end or late. You're going to be using Umastan to get a bigger lead early game. You're going to be grabbing as much mid game as possible to make your end or late behave like a late or pace. You're going to be stacking velocity skills that are extremely strong going into late game, like innate experience. It's going to be a very, very strong skill in this coming CM. That's why I have Ogre up here on the end list. Using Spurt, NSM, and at most, in my opinion, Dober Unique for your Excel options. These will be very strong. These will be more than enough Excel. You're going to start your Spurt from much further up than you should, playing your end like a late or late like a pace. So ever since Suzuka came out, we've seen that Suzuka pushes fronts to behave like paces, paces to behave like lates, lates to behave like ends, and ends to just be slower. So looking into this, we're going to be trying to reverse that. We're going to be playing our ends like lates and our lates like paces. We're going to be trying to get them so far up that when they're using encroaching shadow, they're much further than they're supposed to be, and they just have an immense lead and a higher top speed to just win. It requires higher investment than most ends and lates, but yields much higher returns than the just gamble. Alright, so why are we using Suzuka? Why are we using Umastan? So Umastan will go off after, I believe it's 5 seconds is its delay start time. And it's very likely to go off in the beginning. And when you look at this line, this is going to be the speed you gain early game when you use Umastan. Seeing that, you're going to be getting a head start over every single other end and immediately getting some lengths right off the bat. You're going to be ahead of the pack the entire time through, as long as you don't get paced down. And how do you avoid getting paced down? By running a Suzuka. Suzuka will stretch out the lobby and be so far up that when the game checks to see if it should pace down your end or your late, it'll see and use the Suzuka's distance to decide, no, I'm not going to pace you down. And you're just going to gain that Umastan distance and continue. It's just profit. All right. And now going into the unholy trinity. This is going to be why ends are even better to run like this. It's going to be very, very expensive to get all these skills, but if you can get them all, it's disgusting. It's extremely strong velocity skills that occur after you are accelerated in late game. Or, in the case of pressure, it's just another strong velocity skill. They're going to be stacking as many velocity skills as possible to just zoom forward past on the corner 3, corner 4. Innate experience in particular is the one to be looking at here, as well as Shadow Break is also very, very strong. All right, now looking at lates. Lates, as I said, they're going to struggle in this environment because ends will just push them out. You're not really going to want to run an end with a late unless you're running a pace, but even then, that's dubious. So triple late, or more likely Suzuka plus a non-gamble late. So as I just described before, the end closer non-gamble strategy, you can apply that for late surges as well, but they might just be pushed out of their Excel options. So I have characters that have Excel built into their kit, or in the case of Machikane Fuka Kitaru, very strong innates up higher. The thing about lates is that they require non-end dominated lobbies. The moment that there's 3 ends in the lobby, you're going to be pushed up to at least 5th place. That means at best, you're just going to get Mejirodober. You won't be able to get Ryan. It may not be as gamble on the Excel, but you are gambling the lobby format. So keep that in mind. You're not gambling the strength of your Excels, the strength of your aces, but you are gambling the room. And the room dictates your aces. So as I mentioned before, you're going to want very strong in-kit Excel. For example, Special Week has the very strong passing and acceleration. It's not very much acceleration, but it's still something, so it makes her better than most. And she has very strong late surger skills in her kit by default. Crispus Augury. If you can build a very, very good late surger Crispus Augury, you can run her as late surger. She has innate experience. She has a late, so it'll be easier to build her here than as an end, but she will be stronger as an end. Mejirodober, she'll be better than Ryan because she can also ult in 5th, but also Mejiro Ryan. Like, these two can succeed, but they require the lobby to not just completely cancel them out. Another way you can run Mejirodober or Ryan or any other late, if you really, really want to run late, is running 2 fronts plus the late, like I was talking about before. That'll be because then you can dictate the lobby more so to be front heavy, so that there's a higher chance of getting her ult. All right, going into pace. So I'm unsure as to how strong these will be. These require testing, but the general comps that I've theory crafted so far is runaway plus 2 pace. You're using the runaway to kill the weak global CM fronts. Remember, global CM, we haven't seen very many strong fronts. Of course, they pop up. Of course, sometimes you'll see them, but it's very rare. A lot of the times I don't even see Groundworker take the lead on these fronts, and it's like, what are you doing? So you're going to be trying to kill the weak fronts, and then you're using in-kit Excels to NSM off of them. So that's the thing. Pace, their Excel options are very, very limited. In order to get NSM, you need to have an Excel. In order to reliably proc NSM, you need to have another Excel. So the thing is, the only Excel that paces have in kit by default that's not character specific is going to be head on. So it's not going to really work to just gamble head on 3 paces. You're not going to really want to do that. So you're going to want to rely on in-kit Excel. For instance, Tamamo Cross, Daiwa Scarlet, Special Week, Augury Christmas, Curran-chan, and Narita Bryan is also pretty strong just because of her golds and her kit. All right. And then another option is triple pace. I'm dubious to how this will work because basically the idea is you're building your pace like a front. So remember I was talking about non-gamble ends. You're trying to build your end like a late, your late like a pace, right? You want them to behave like that. You can build your pace to try and behave like a front, but it'll be extremely hard to reliably do so. But if there's no fronts in the lobby, because Global CM doesn't run fronts, you can just be a lucky pace and then angle and scheme and boom, you can run your paces. You can run your paces, you can run your paces. Angling and scheming still works on paces if there are no fronts. All right, so that's going to be my video. I appreciate you watching. This is a little bit of a different kind of content than I'm used to so far. It's been very different trying to figure out how to format a CM guide. I hope I did a good job. The other content I do is more Oshi focused. I'm going into the lore of horses and then what you can do to make your Oshis work. If you're interested in that, look at that. Thank you for watching. Bye.